But when it comes to saving money, you need to know how much money you have exactly. And that is like down to the cent. How much is in your savings? How much is in your checkings? How much debt do you have? How much credit card limits do you have? Like, you need to know every single bit and piece of money that you have, whether it's tangible or like, you know, your credit cards, which you have, but you don't really have. Right. So being able to have that number down to the cent is really important. We hear that analogy of you can't get to where you want to be without knowing where you are. And I think that that is a huge proponent when it comes to money.
On today's episode of Morning Waltz, I'm joined by Tynecia Wilson, former Miss Philadelphia, founder of the Healthy Wealthy Friend, and someone who's been incredibly transparent about living a life that feels aligned. Tynecia has worn a lot of hats, and what I really admire is how openly you are about the ambition, self-trust, and just redefining success on your own terms. So super excited to have you and to have this conversation.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, and I love that you're local and we're doing this in person. So we talked a little bit before the camera went on that you are from Philly.
Yes.
And Temple alum.
I am. So, 2-time, almost 3. Well, not almost, but 2-time, soon to be 3.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so my bachelor's is in Spanish literature and linguistics. I have a minor in Latin American studies. I studied abroad in Costa Rica during my freshman year at Temple, and that's when I ended up declaring Spanish as a major. My master's degree is in Advocacy and Organizational Development. Super long title that basically was a degree that prepared me and my very small cohort members to either be a part of nonprofits, help find nonprofits, scale nonprofits, like all in that world. And now I am enrolled in a doctorate of education program.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you want to do with that?
I would love to be a chief learning officer, saying what people have to learn, who's going to teach it, how they're going to teach it, or being in the full-time like entrepreneur speaking space of continuing to talk about the things that I'm passionate about, which we're going to get to, and talking about money and financial literacy and kind of what that looks like in the education space.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned too that you are working at Villanova.
I do work at Villanova.
Yeah. So kind of all the things coming together with the organizational development.
Yes. My fellowship is a part of the CLEAR program. So that's Children, Liturgy, Ecology, and Renewal program. But working with just the college age, it's interesting because they're at this place that is really transformational for them, that one staff person, one administration, one teacher, one faculty member could change a lot for what their trajectory looks like.
Right.
And so thinking that I could be that person for a particular student or a group of students, it means a lot to me, knowing that I can have that type of impact. And my role revolves around community service. And so I oversee what our sophomore students do in terms of what their community service looks like. I also teach a class on social justice. And so I'm talking to students about the importance of service learning, the importance of understanding what your role is when it comes to doing service, as well as trying to avoid any of the dangers of service.
So I want to go back to the word you used of impact.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like not only with what you're doing as an educator, but with your personal business that you have, that is, I would say, the main objective of everything that you do. Can you talk me through kind of what led to Healthy Wealthy and just all of the work that you've done that has led to that, but also this broader impact that you make?
Of course. So the Healthy Wealthy Friend this is the third pivot of something where it started. So in 2022, I was Miss Liberty Bell, which is a part of the Miss America system. And my platform at the time was called Teaching to Wellness. And so it still revolved around financial literacy, but I just called it wellness because it's financial wellness. 2024, I became Miss Philadelphia. And my director, shout out to Bobby, Bobby and Miss Deneen, who was our state prep chair, they kind of encouraged me to think back on the name. And they wanted it to be something that if it's financial literacy, make it about finance. And so it transformed into Teaching to Wealth. And then after Miss Philadelphia was done, competed for Miss Pennsylvania, had an amazing time. I realized that I wanted to continue this type of work, but obviously I wasn't in the pageant world at that anymore. And so October 2025 or October 2024, I was coming down to the end of my year as Miss Philadelphia, is when I launched the Healthy Wealthy Friend. And it came about because in 2024, I lost 35 pounds and I saved $10,000. And I realized that those two major accomplishments were done by the same habits. And so we talk about, health is wealth. And so that's why I brought the two together to become the Healthy Wealthy Friend. Like, we all have that friend in our friend group that like doesn't complain about money. They look healthy, they're doing the right things. And for a lot of my friend groups, like, I'm that person, right? I'm a Zumba instructor. I go to the gym regularly. I talk about credit a lot. I talk about finance. I talk about saving. Like, my friends know me as the money person. And so combine those two together, I thought, well, what sounds nice? The Healthy Wealthy Friend.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of how that came about, from those two accomplishments. One, but also realizing like what role I play in my friend groups.
Right. And what does that look like? What was kind of the outcome of what role do you play?
So a lot of my friends talk to me about money advice, right? They like to ask me about different savings accounts. They've asked me, I've had friends that are comfortable enough to ask me to loan them money, which I think that is a beautiful thing when it comes to helping your friends financially and in times that they need it. But also being able to give them that insight, give them that knowledge and a bit of that direction, understanding that I am not a certified financial advisor, but I'm just someone who understands money in the most basic sense. Because I think that when we start to think about finances, we think about money, we get a little too in our head and we start thinking about all the advanced terms, when in all reality, it's being able to have like this really basic understanding attached to healthy money habits and behaviors that will put you so much further ahead than some of the people around you. And so being able to be that person for my friends, but then also what that looks like in the health wise, like I'm always inviting my friends to come to my Zumba class. At this point now, a lot of people will send me pictures when they meal prep or when they make a particular dish that I talk about often. And so being able to like see those things being said to me, like, oh, hey, Tynecia, like this is what I'm doing because I saw you do it. Like, we talk about influence and we talk about impact, and that is the impact or the legacy that I want to be able to build, is like showing people that if you want to achieve a certain place of financial stability, or you just don't want to feel hesitant or negative or like get all weird inside when it comes to talking about money, to be able to help people in sharing my own examples and things that I've gone through is a really beautiful thing to be able to do.
Yeah. There's 2 points that you've made that I want to dig into a little bit more.
Yeah.
The first part is I want to go back to the beginning. What led to the financial literacy? Where does that come from? So
this is also in my ebook too. I'm giving y'all the it's also in my ebook. No, but so it started, and it's funny because I had to really conceptualize this when it was becoming my platform as a title holder. And so I said that America runs on Dunkin', and so did I, until one day I looked at my bank account and I was like, where's all my money going? And at the time, I think I was like 18 or 19 at the time. And I went to Dunkin' Donuts to try to buy breakfast and I couldn't. And I was like, this is ridiculous that I cannot buy a $10 breakfast. Like, where's all my money going? That was my routine. I would get Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. I would get Chipotle for lunch. I would get Domino's for dinner. I had Ben & Jerry's for, like, that was my routine of eating.
Yeah.
And I went from spending $40, $45 in a day to now $40 or $45 in a week.
Yeah.
And so you can do the math on that about how much money was being spent. And in the moment, it didn't feel like that much, because it's like, oh yeah, it's just $5 here, $10 here, maybe 15, maybe another 5, right? It feels affordable in the moment. But when you put all the math together over a month, over 6 months, over a year, you're spending a lot of money that you don't have to be spending. And that was a big part of me being able to save $10,000.
Yeah.
But those habits continue into your 20s and sometimes into your 30s. And so that's kind of how it started. I was like a little embarrassed. And I was like, no, you should be able to be able to get breakfast from Dunkin' Donuts. But I realized too that that's where a lot of my money was going. A lot of my money was going into food or, just things that I didn't need to be spending that much money on. But even before that, and I think that this was the real beginning of my financial literacy journey before I even understood that this was the beginning. So when I was in high school, when I went to Central, I was a part of so many things. Like I was a part of the cheer team, the step team, I did softball, like I did all those things. And when I realized that if I stopped doing all those extracurriculars and I went to work, I would get money, I quit everything that I was doing and I just started going to work. And I worked in Child Watch at the YMCA. That was my first job. I was a ballet instructor, a hip hop instructor, and then I also started teaching Zumba. So all those things were fun. All those things, like I met so many great people, but I lost a lot of really important friendships in high school because I took myself out of all those other things that my friends were doing.
Right.
And so I say that's the beginning of my financial literacy journeys because I put money over the things that I love doing. And I realized that you can't get that time back. Yeah. And so that's a major lesson that I learned. Like, you can't repeat your 4 years of high school, but that's a journey like throughout life, yes. Right? If you are continuously dedicating all your time to just making money, you miss out on all these things that you'll never get back.
Yes.
And so when I got to college, I said, okay, we're going to do both. Like, we're going to make money, but we're also going to make sure we're doing all the things that we loved. And I burned out. Like, that was when I experienced burnout to the max. And I realized, okay, like, we have to find an even better balance here. And so I say that, again, that was the beginning of my financial literacy journey because that was the first example that I can remember of, okay, I know that money is important, but it's not as important as creating those meaningful and lasting memories with your friends and with your loved ones.
Yeah.
And so that is why I want to continue to talk about financial literacy in a sense of having communication around finance, having healthy habits around finance. And like, then we get those simple tips and tricks that people don't really think too much about when it comes to either your health or your wealth.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting how the two of them are very much intertwined.
They are.
I always say, when I was younger, and the two biggest things that I would always struggle with is food and finances.
Right.
And then it was because I was an emotional eater, and when I was stressed, and then everything else. And I lived in LA, and LA will chew you out and spit you up, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, you also, when you're younger, I think you feel like you have to keep up too. Mm-hmm. And people aren't paying your bills.
They're not.
And your body is also your wealth, and how you maintain that and how you fuel it. And that's the other thing is like people aren't you. So you have to be in control of that, where it's really easy to be swayed by outside pressures.
Yeah.
And then you're like, where's my money?
Exactly.
Oh, DoorDash.
DoorDash, Uber Eats, Dunkin' Donuts. I say it all the time. Like, the two things I talk about a lot in my content, I don't eat at Dunkin' Donuts anymore, and I don't eat at Wawa. Yeah. Like, those are my two things. And it's because someone asked me, they're like, why those two specific places? And it's because they seem affordable, but in the long run, you'd be saving a lot more money if you made those things at home. Like, it's just astronomical. Yeah. And I get, like, the mindset, the people who, you still go to Dunkin' Donuts once or twice. You still go to Wawa. You still go to these like convenience stores. But my whole thing, and something I also really want to talk about in my content, is that when you think of, you don't have time to do something, that is when you should be cooking. That is when you should be meal prepping. That is when you should be planning these things out.
Yeah.
Because when you put it all together, the time it takes you to actually drive to these places, wait in line, order the thing, go back to where you got it, like all that time that you took, doing that multiple times throughout the week, you probably could have cooked at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it would have tasted better.
It would have tasted better. It would have been healthier.
Yep.
Would have been more affordable.
Yep. And you'll have it for several days.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other part of that you had mentioned earlier was being the friend that can talk about finances, the healthy, wealthy component.
Yep.
Finances is still pretty taboo.
Yeah.
It makes people uncomfortable to talk about money. How do you navigate that? Is there ever any pushback of like, oh no, I don't want to talk about it, or
sometimes there's pushback, and I want to say there might always be, but more and more people are becoming more transparent about how much they make, more transparent about how much you make in a particular industry. And I think that is a really interesting thing, because a lot of times in a lot of different industries, you look at pay discrepancies, whether that is by gender, whether that is by race, like whatever that looks like, by education. Being able to have open conversations about money brings more justice into spaces far beyond social media.
Yeah.
So it can be uncomfortable at first, and not just talking about money, but talking about credit, talking about credit cards, talking about credit score, talking about debt, talking about like all these things. I think it's important, because if you're not having these conversations, how do you know what you don't know?
Sure.
And so if I'm able to be the person to talk about, oh, like this is a credit card that I took out, this is how much money I have saved and how I'm able to get this much back because of my high yield savings account or what I'm investing in. Like being able to have those open conversations, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the ones that are close to you.
Yes.
Especially my friends, especially my family. And I wish that people have more conversations around that. And that is like my goal in terms of the Healthy Wealthy Friend.
Yeah. You brought up a really important point about the inclusivity of it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was raised by a single mom and we were very, small town. And I didn't really get the education on finances until I had to figure it out in my 20s.
Which is most people's experience.
Yes. And how do you continue to advocate and push to continue to have these conversations to bring more awareness at a younger age, that it's more inclusive?
So I remember one of the first talks that I gave around financial literacy. It was a first grade class, and I was teaching them about entrepreneurship. And I asked them, I was like, what's your favorite food? And one kid said, pizza. And I was like, well, do you know how many streams of income? And I taught them what streams of income meant. I was like, do you know how many streams of income you can have from your love for pizza? I'm like, you can write a pizza book. You can travel the world and like try different pizzas and have companies pay you to go. You could open a pizza shop. You could sell pizza dough. So like going into all the different things and talking about money at a very early age from a sense of, what do you love? This is how you can make it into a profit, right? Passion to profit. I think a lot of people talk about that. And so I guess through my content, I made a video very recently about the financial decisions that my parents made that positively affected me. And I hope that, other parents would be able to see those, or people who want to be parents one day would be able to do those similar financial decisions that would help their kids in the long run. But I think that the more finance content creators, the more people, and again, outside of social media as well, like people who are just going into different spaces, which is something that I was able to do as Miss Philadelphia, and something that I hope to continue to do with and without the crown, is to be able to just go into different spaces, whether that's schools or community centers or churches, like wherever there's gatherings of people, and like, let's just have a conversation around money. Like maybe you have to start here with a stranger next to you in order to feel a bit more comfortable with the people who are close to you. Or a lot of times we don't have conversations around money just because we don't have the verbiage, we don't have the language, or like we just don't understand it. And that's where a lot of the discomfort comes from. It comes from like uncertainty with your own finances, but also just not being able to talk about it because you don't know the words.
Right.
So that is, how I would love to continue advocating, becoming more inclusive of the conversation because the thing is, we can also teach children about financial literacy, but also having adults a part of the conversation is going to be important. And this was something that I really emphasized like during my year as Miss Philadelphia, is I wanted to be in multiple spaces, right? Whether that was having a conversation about entrepreneurship with first graders. I've done workshops on budgeting with master students who were also in the education space. So that large range of financial literacy just shows that everyone needs it. And no matter how young you are or how wise you are, those like you still need to be able to talk about money or to be able to have that conversation or feel comfortable around. And I think that's where all of it starts, is like the comfort of being able to talk about it and having the language or the words to be able to actually have a conversation.
Sure.
Yeah.
If somebody were to, they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, I depend on, it's easy, I don't have the time, and all the reasons that you can't meal prep or you can't do this. But then clueless as to where all their money goes. What would you advise as being that first next step to help somebody be like, okay,
this is how you start?
Yeah.
We'll get the ebook. No, that was my last time. That's my last shameless plug.
No, you're going to plug it at the
my
end. My
last shameless plug. No, so I talk about in my ebook, like one of the first steps that I tell people when it comes to saving money, you need to know how much money you have exactly. And that is like down to the cent. How much is in your savings? How much is in your checkings? How much debt do you have? How much credit card limits do you have? Like, you need to know every single bit and piece of money that you have, whether it's tangible or like, your credit cards, which you have, but you don't really have. Right. So being able to have that number down to the cent is really important. We hear that analogy of you can't get to where you want to be without knowing where you are. And I think that is a huge proponent when it comes to money. Because a lot of times we get a lot of it into our head about it. Like, oh my God, like you hear a lot of people say, I feel like you'll hear people say I'm broke more than you hear them say I'm rich, right? And so we take this mindset that we might have less money than we actually do. Or on the flip side, you think you have more money than you actually do. So I think the first step is writing down how much you actually have. That's going to be like that's the beginning. You can't get anywhere without knowing where you are. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would do is have a high yield savings account. I think that's really important to have. The next thing is, now we're breaking down like, where is your money actually going? Most of the time it's going to food, which is why a lot of my content, the Healthy Wealthy Friend, is around both saving money and around weight loss. So knowing that most of our money as a American population goes to where we're eating, that would be my first thing. That's the thing I tell a lot of people. I'm like, you want to save money? You need to start cooking. And then people come at me with I don't have time. Listen, when we want to talk about who doesn't have time, like, as a content creator, influencer, someone who is doing interviews, going to different events, working full time, teaching Zumba, also like I'm on 2 different boards, I'm getting my doctorate degree. Like, if you want to talk about not having time, and this is something that has been a part of my life for a really long time. Like when I was in college, I did hair in college. So I remember one day I had got up, I used to have 8 a.m. labs because I was a kinesiology major. I was kinesiology major before I was a Spanish major. Okay. So I would have 8 a.m. labs. I was doing food delivery too. I was a hustler. Oh my God. I was a hustler. And shout out to Tap and Go. They used to have this company on campus, and you used to pick up food on campus and deliver on campus. So it made it super easy. And I was the only person who had a car. So I was like their top person. I was going after it. So I would have leave lab, do food delivery, go back to class, double until like 5 p.m., do food delivery again, go to rehearsals. And I was on a step team on Temple's campus, Ladies of Elegance. I was on a dance team, By Any Means Necessary. And then I was also doing pageants. And then I would do hair again. And then I was a commuter student. So I would have to drive from Temple back to West Philly and do it all over again the next day. Right. So we want to talk about like busy. I know busy. Yeah. I know busy. I know like what it looks like to fill your schedule. But the thing that combats a busy schedule is intentionality. Yes. Where are you actually placing your time? Because a lot of times we have more time than we think, especially in the day and age of doom scrolling. Like, we are hyper focused on social media. A lot of our time is spent on scrolling, and I'm guilty of it. There's been times where I'm sitting in my, you just finish your commute, you're sitting in your car, you're outside, you're waiting. And you end up scrolling. Sometimes I'll sit, I'm like, I was scrolling for over an hour now, 2 hours sometimes. Like, and so to say, oh, I don't have time. And I also want to say, like, I don't have kids. So I understand like that could be like another layer to it. But outside of that, or no, honestly, it could be inside of that as well. Like, intention doesn't stop.
Right.
Whether you have a full-time job or not, whether you have kids or not, whether you're married or not. And I don't want to sound unempathetic, but I think that we all have to be a bit more intentional with how we place our time, how we stack our days, right?
Yeah.
And so to say, oh, I don't have time because I have X, Y, and Z, that is when you're actually supposed to be doing the prep, the meal prep, the, getting your workouts out the way as early as possible. Like, I am all about like doing the hard thing first and then having leisure later.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people aren't able to kind of tap into that mindset of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something that I always think about. I'm one of those people that has to clean as I cook.
I do that. Yep.
And it's always been drilled into me that it's like, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. And I try to use that logic in
if you have time to lean, you have time to clean.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's amazing.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I have 2 more questions for you as we wrap this up.
Yeah.
So how do you stop yourself from burning out? What are the mechanisms you have in place for yourself to stay healthy, to stay wealthy?
To stay healthy, to stay wealthy.
But
I think that that's an ongoing journey, right? Because new things come about all the time. And I said I experienced burnout in college, so I know what it feels like when I'm getting there. But the college burnout, the things that were, impeding on my time in college are different post-college. They're different years. They're different in a full-time job. Like, they're going to be different when I'm a mom. So all those things are going to be different. So I think the foundation of it is always checking in with myself. I think after losing a good amount of weight and really just being more focused on what I'm eating, on moving my body and what that actually looks like, I'm like so in tune with my body. Mm-hmm. And when I feel like I'm getting to the point of, okay, we are tired, I am good to say, hey, listen, like, I can't come to this event anymore. Or I love my supervisor. She is the most understanding person ever. Yeah. There's been times where I'm like, hey, I need a personal day. And that's the thing I love about Villanova is that they care about the whole person, not just you as an employee. And so avoiding burnout, there again, back to that intentional time, staying up on your calendar, but all in all is like really checking in with yourself. I am God-fearing woman. I believe in God, so I pray a lot. I pray over, the decisions I make. No worries. I pray over the decisions I make. I pray over my discernment. And so I check in with myself. I check in with God, and I make sure that the things that I'm doing, sometimes you have to push yourself, right? Sometimes there is a push, but not to the point where you break down, right? And so being able to balance those things and checking in with my energy, making sure I'm getting enough sleep. I know how much sleep I need. If I'm not getting enough sleep, okay, well, we're going to have to push some things back. And that's okay. I think that life, and something I say all the time whenever I'm given any types of talks, we have to continue to give ourselves permission to evolve. Yes. So whether that looks like day by day, you need a little bit more time, or, I can push out a little bit more, and knowing what your why is also going to be really important. I have 2 younger sisters that I continue to show up for and show them, showing up for yourself and hard work and like really believing in yourself is going to set you apart from a lot of people.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love understanding and knowing your why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what is next? What are you working on?
Yeah.
And what is next for you?
So funny that you say that. Okay. So I have I have 3 ebooks that are out. One of my ebooks is around high yield savings accounts. So that is my recommendations, what they are, how they work. I have an ebook exactly on how I was able to save $10,000, the steps that I took. I also have an ebook that is around dating, which is off the cuff from the Healthy Wealthy Friend and more on my brand called Soft Girl Sinks, where I literally sit on a sink and talk about different topics around femininity, fitness, and finance. And so I have a book that I would like to write, which will be like, physical book, and that will be around finance. And I'm hoping for that to come out on my birthday, which is April 29th. So that is coming up. I am hoping to actually get back more into interviewing. I would love to get back into the commercial space. I've done 2 commercials so far, which were small roles, but I had so much fun doing them. So being back in the like acting commercial space is something that I really want to be in as well. And then, continuing what influence looks like, and in the most genuine sense of the word, of taking my experiences, my lessons, and just hoping and praying that it reaches the right person that needs it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to find you or follow you,
Yes.
where should they do so?
Okay, so you could follow me on Instagram. That's Tynecia. That's Tynecia Wilson _ There's someone out there that has created a fake page of me. So
That's gotta be so weird.
it's so strange. It was like the first week of January.
Yeah.
Someone was like, I think someone's impersonating you. And I was like, what? So yeah, there's like a fake page of me out there. But my Instagram has an _ and my TikTok, Tynecia Wilson _ The Healthy Wealthy Friend is also on Instagram and TikTok. And then you can also find, if you want to dive deeper into femininity, fitness, and finance, you can check out Soft Girl Sinks on TikTok.
The 3 Fs.
The 3 Fs.
All right, well, Tynecia, thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Yes, I had so much fun.
Yes, me too.